Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Brother Shafran. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Dear brothers and sisters, every semester I have to deliver 15 classes for every course. So as in your country, it's almost in all the countries, every semester 15 classes. I have just finished one semester and I have an experience of teaching in Malaysia and in Japan, and there is a same trend. In the beginning of semester, the participants are peak in numbers, and the middle of the semester, the participants decrease, and in the last part of the semester, there are fewer and fewer attendants in the class. And in the final examination, almost all the registered students come. There is no difference between Japan and Malaysia, and I am sure even in other countries. Actually, 15 classes are not so easy. I mean, I can understand you feel tired. I mean, the students become tired. I also become tired in the last of the course. Anyway, I am happy to discuss with you in this course. Today's topic is Islam in East Asia. I talk on Islamic way of life for Muslim minorities in China, Japan, and Korea. Today, in the contemporary East Asia, Islamic way of life, or to reflect Islam in the real life society and even in the community. It is not only the issue for the minorities. It is an issue for the Muslim majority countries also, because in the modern age, the society changed, the technologies changed, the systems, the legal system, education system, the many aspects changed. And implementation and practice of Islam may be different from well, 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago. So this issue, the Islamic way of life in the real society, in the contemporary age, is common among the Muslims in Muslim majority or Muslim minority countries. In many aspects, this issue is common. But in the Muslim minority countries, there are different faces because the situation are different in China, Japan, and Korea, because they are minority and the majority people have their characteristic worldview and even social system. We discussed on worldview issue and theoretical issue. Today and the next class, I will discuss some more practical issues. The real issues or daily topics of the Muslim life in China, Japan, and Korea. Issues of Muslim minorities. Actually, they have common issues with the Muslims in other parts in the world. Issue of Aqidah, issue of fiqh. In many parts, they are not different, but the specific issue of the minorities, they are not necessarily religious issue. Of course, all the people have their daily issues of butter and bread and butter, their income, their employment, their jobs. To live as minority is a bit more difficult. In these three countries, except China, the Muslims are foreigners. I mean, the most of the Muslims in Japan and Korea are foreigners without citizenship. China is a bit different. In China, there are so many Muslims from foreign countries, from Africa, from Middle East, from Southeast Asia, but there are more than 20 million locals, Muslims with Chinese nationality. So China is a bit different. But in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, in Guangzhou, in Chinese big states, there are many foreigners. And foreigners, they have to care their visas, status to stay. If it is possible, many of them want citizenship. And for visa and for citizenship, they need jobs, employment. Employment. Everybody needs employment, even in Malaysia or in Egypt. But I will discuss later. The foreigners have difficulties. It's not easy to find jobs, and they cannot choose. I mean, they do not have so many selections. Even if it is a restaurant providing alcohol, pork, deceit, there may be no other selection for many of them. It's very usual. In Japan, China, Korea, the restaurants serve haram food, but to find the jobs is not easy. And many employers ask Muslims, female, to take off hijab. You must not work with your scarves because customers will be afraid of such styles. It will give a bad impression for the customers. So take off it, or we will not employ you. Take off your hijab or do not come from tomorrow. It is very usual. Either in China or Japan, or I do not know well about Korea, but I can expect it. It can happen. Food and yes, food. Many people ask, is it easy to find halal food in Japan? Maybe it's relatively difficult, but it's not the most critical issue. As far as I understand, food, we can find any food, rice or a vegetable or a fish or an egg. It was not so normal to eat meat, animal meat in Japan before the Meiji Restoration because of Buddhism. Basically, Buddhism prohibits to eat animal meat. So the main food of the Japanese traditionally were rice, vegetable, and fish. After the Meiji Restoration, everything was imported from the West. Eating meat was one of such imported culture. Actually, food is not the main problem for me. The tourists, they worry about food. where can we find the best halal Japanese food? It's okay. The tourists have their interests, but for us, those live in Japan permanently have bigger issue. I will discuss on it. Other issues, for example, cemetery, I discussed on it last week. Cemetery, it's not necessarily easy. Many Muslims send their families' bodies to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, to Turkey after their deaths, because they cannot find a place of Muslim cemetery, so they send it to their motherland by airplanes. It costs around 20,000 US dollar. It costs. And family matters, I suppose it's more serious. Family is important for the Muslims in Islam, undoubtedly. Marriage is also important in practice of Islam. There are many issues concerning marriage. For the Muslim youth in Japan, it is not easy to find their partners. Their mother language is Japanese. There are so many foreigners without Japanese citizenship, but they do not understand Japanese. And those native Japanese Muslim, native, but their parents are actually foreigners, the immigrant Muslims, they want to find Japanese native partners, but the Muslim population is very limited, and they cannot find their partners. The issue of worldview, it is discussed, but in the context of Islamic way of life, it is also issue of education, media, and popular culture, because the education and culture surrounding the Muslims in China, Japan, and Korea are based on the worldview, I mean the mainstream or majority's worldview in Japan, China, and Korea. Especially for Muslim children, these worldviews in education and games or TV programs, anime, They are very influential. The stories are very attractive, and the quality of illustration, they are excellent. The children are more attracted to Japanese popular culture than the cultures in Muslim countries. It is okay to enjoy popular culture in Europe or America or Japan, Korea, but it is a point to be careful. The culture is always production from the world view. Any culture reflects the world view of the author. The Japanese games or Japanese anime, manga, they are products of the Japanese worldview of Buddhism or Shinto or Confucianism. Either the children notice it or do not notice, they are very influential, and it is common in the society. They grow up with strong influence of such popular culture. The word hell does not mean Christianity is hell or Islam. They are the kind of the world after death in Shinto and Taoism. The worldview of Shinto, Buddhism, or idea of the hereafter, such as incarnation, is very common in the Japanese popular culture, and children absorb such worldview through popular culture, and they have such worldview as common value when they grow up in Japan. The similar influence can be found in China and Korea. The popular culture is very influential today all over the world. But in Japan, Korea, even in China, the popular culture is very strong. They are the main influencer, stronger than religious education, or stronger than even schools. They are the main influencer. So the Islamic way of life in East Asia. There are so many issues. One lecture is not enough at all to discuss on them. what is the difference? What is different from Egypt or Turkey or Malaysia or Indonesia? Such question was discussed in Europe since the 1990s. European Muslims and the Muslims scholars from other regions discussed on fiqh for minorities in Europe. It's called fiqh aqalliyat, fiqh of minorities. The leading scholars were Taha Jabir Alwani from Iraq and Yusuf al-Qaradawi from Egypt. There are other ulama discussed on fiqh for minorities. The platform was European Council for Fatwa and Research. There were many opinions. One of the main points was how to make the life in Europe easier in line with Sharia and fiqh. In fact, many Muslims, including the young generation, feel our life is difficult, more difficult than others because of Islam. We cannot eat this, we cannot drink that, we must not do that, we cannot go for dating, we cannot marry with non-Muslims, we cannot, we must not prohibition, that's Islam. Even the Muslims think Islam for them is we cannot, we must not, it is prohibited, it is haram, and Islam makes their life very hard. But fiqh is not for making the life difficult. It is not the objective of Sharia. Fiqh is the way to make the life even easy for the humans in this life and the hereafter. It is unfortunate that the many young Muslims in Europe or America or even in Japan think Islam makes their life difficult. It is not the happy situation. It's not so suitable understanding on Islam. There is something wrong in approach. If they feel Islam is something make their life just difficult and bring unhappiness for their life. Something is wrong or something is misunderstood. So scholars discussed how to make the life of the minorities easier. But of course, it does not mean everything is okay. It's not. Many points are not changeable. The obligatory prayers are 5 times a day. It does not change even in Saudi Arabia or even in France, America or Japan. 5 times does not become once or twice. There should not be such a big change. Basically, rules or customs in the local society should be respected and even can be implemented in the Muslims' life if it is necessary or if it does not have problem. Other or adapt in Southeast Asia can be practiced by the Muslims. The local society has their own laws and customs. Basically, it is not the best way to reject totally or avoid them. Sorry, it is not macho, it is Madusin. Madusin in the 19th century, in his book, Mushtaq, he wrote this book in Arabic. Madusin wrote in both Chinese and Arabic, even in Persian. But majority of his book was written in Arabic. He recognized there are big differences between Darul Islam and Darul Harb. He means China is Darul Harb, and differences in languages, terms make difference or make misunderstandings. As a result, there are different muamalat. He means Chinese government has Chinese law, even the private matters, such as family law, or marriage, divorce, inheritance, and it is impossible to avoid Chinese law, Chinese penalty law, Chinese family law, even in the 19th century. Of course, even today. Then he discussed how to live under the Chinese law without conflict, or how to avoid conflict. It is very practical and necessary issue. European Muslim scholars once discussed in the 1990s. Europe is not Darul Islam, but Europe is not Darul Harb. Europe is like pre-Hijra Makkah. Makkah in Jahiliyyah, but after the Prophet Muhammad, they mean before Hijrah, even the Prophet did not discuss on details of fiqh or hudud, muamalat. The priority during pre-Hijrah period was knowledge on Allah and Tawheed or Jannah, the hereafter. The legal systems, penal code, it became the matters after Hijrah. After the Prophet and the Sahaba Ansar established the political system in Medina. Therefore, Europe is like Makkah before Hijrah. Therefore, they discussed their priority is dawah and not fiqh issues in details. They should concentrate on Tawheed and Aqidah. Then the situation will be better and Europe will become even Darul Islam. But they were probably optimistic. After 2001, the situation became difficult in Europe and North America. The Muslim activities were restricted under watch and under control by European governments and American government. It's getting more and more difficult. By the way, East Asia is not Europe. There are many similar points with Europe in East Asian Muslim community, but East Asian countries, China, Japan, Korea, they are not Europe. These countries are not Christian majority countries. And fiqh faculty in Europe, they discussed many issues. For example, participation in politics in European countries or America. Another big issue was the war. For example, in the United States of America, there is US Army. They went to Iraq and Afghanistan for war. So Muslims discussed, is it halal or haram to be soldier of US Army and go to war in Iraq or war in Afghanistan? It was controversial. Some said they must not. You will fight against the Muslims. Some scholars, such as Taha Jaber Alwani, said it is permissible to join US Army and go to the war in Iraq or Afghanistan. It is still controversial. And this issue is relevant in Japan and Korea and China. The military of these countries can go to Iraq, Afghanistan, or other Muslim countries. In fact, they already went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are Muslims in Japanese army, Korean army, and of course in People's Liberation Army of China. It is necessary to be discussed, but each individual has their own issue, and it's not easy to say, actually, you must quit from the army immediately, go to strike, or it's not easy, actually. And it's already 10:15. The fundamental issue, in my opinion, is the sustainability of the Muslims. In these three countries, there is a strong pressure of assimilation through education, media, in workplace, and neighbor communities. Assimilation means you must be same with us. You must be normal Japanese. You must be normal Korean. You must be normal Chinese. If you live here, you maybe have foreigner father. It is okay. But you live here, so you must be normal Chinese, normal Japanese, normal Korean. Then we treat you equally. Actually, it's fact. If those Muslim children forget everything about Islam and their fathers, mother countries, and behave as majority Japanese, they are treated equally. No discrimination. This is a different point from Europe or North America. The race does not matter. It's a matter of behavior and worldview. Those who have Japanese worldview and behave like Japanese, they are Japanese. So forget everything of your father's religion. Then you are same Japanese. This is very strong pressure, and very few of the Muslim children survive in schools. Therefore, I think this is a far bigger problem and a fundamental issue, more than food or a cemetery or daily issues. The children deny that they are Muslims because they want to be treated as normal Japanese. They want to be normal Japanese. And it is based on the concept of religion in East Asia. Religion must not be so influential. Religion can exist, but as a kind of tool, just a decoration or just a spiritual experience, like yoga or like exercise, short time tourism. It is not for believing seriously. It's not normal Chinese or normal Japanese or normal Koreans. Koreans are a bit different because they are very passionate in Christianity. I mean, many of them. So this pressure of assimilation is serious or critical, and to be Muslim is the first issue, I suppose. To be Muslim, I mean to have Iman from the generation to generation, to sustain the life as Muslim from the generation to generation. It is the priority, and it sounds like a minimum target, but it is even very hard at this moment. So I will answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think you have 2 more slides. You want to continue next week?
Inshallah.
Oh, okay. Inshallah. Prof, how are your children surviving in school? I mean, I know you came back in 2019. Are they homeschooling or are they go to public school?
Public, private and public school, but there's not so big change between private and public. And you know, the teenage is difficult. 6 years old, 8 years old, it's still not so serious. But when they become teenagers,
right.
They are demanded to be member of the society.
True.
I mean the Japanese community, and to be normal Japanese. 6 years old, 7 years old, if they speak something strange, it's tolerated. But 15 years old
True.
or 17 years old, then they still speak about God or hell or heaven. Hey, you are out of the limitation
That's right. You are
of the
strange.
Japanese norms.
That's true. That's true. Okay, Prof. We have one question from Brother Nuruddin. Prof, what about the experience of Christianity in Japan and Korea? Do Japanese or Korean citizens who follow Christianity not practice their ethical system, which is also strict, although looser than Islam? Are they more accepted by the people because they are considered a Western religion? Thank you.
It's not still simple because in Japan, there is a history of Christianity almost 500 years, and during 300 years, Christianity was totally prohibited. Once a Christian found, they were executed immediately. So thousands of Christians were executed. It started in the 16th century and continued even after the Meiji Restoration. Even in the 1860s and 70s, Christians were found and immediately executed. Hundreds of them were found and executed, but they permitted that exist because there were strong pressures from the United States and Europe. But under the strong, serious restrictions, they survived more than 300 years secretly underground. So after Meiji Restoration, Europeans came to Japan, then they at last appeared from their secret community. Then hundreds of them were executed, even after the 1970. But at last they survived. And it means they have a strong spirit of belief. And it's not simple, strict or loose. They survived, even though thousands of them were executed publicly. But of course, their knowledge and practice was very limited. It was very risky to have books or Bible. Once Bible was found, all the villagers were executed. But they survived, and it's not so simple, simple issue. But we can say European or American religion, I mean Christianity, had the strong impact on part of Japanese and Koreans. They even sacrificed thousands of lives for Christianity.
True. Okay, Prof. I think I have seen one movie, Korean movie, about how they persecute Christian. I forgot what. One of the classic movie in 18th century or early 19th century. Okay, from Sister Jamalia, Prof, which university in Japan have offer Islamic program on postgrad level, and there are Muslim supervisors available to supervise the study, and are there Muslim supervisors?
Islamic program. If you know European universities and American universities, you may understand. There are Oriental studies.
That's right.
They study on history or classical literature, classical Persian literature, but they are not Muslim at all, and they have never read Quran. They do not even memorize one surah. But they say they study on Islam, Islamic literature, Islamic history, Islamic philosophy. They are not interested in Islam or Aqidah or fiqh. This is the so-called Islamic studies in Europe, America, and even Japan. But today, Europe and America, it's changing because there are many Muslim researchers. At first, they are exchange students, but part of them became lecturers, professors. There are many today. In Japan, the majority of them are the Japanese because education is in Japanese, even in university. So there is no space for Arabs or Iranians. They cannot teach in Japanese. It's the basic situation. There are some, but the Islamic program, it's not, there's no faculty of Islam or Islamic knowledge. Even there's no only one department in Tokyo University. But it's not what you know in Malaysia or in Indonesia. The contents are very different.
Thank you, Prof. I remember you explained in the last class about Islamic studies in Japan. The same like in the US before the Muslim professors, Muslim students coming in. Okay, we take last question from Brother Nuruddin. What is the role of mosque in establishing dialogue between Islam and Japanese culture? Does the internet contribute to a more positive image of Islam?
Mosque is at first it's a place of salat and the community center of the Muslims. So not necessarily a place for dialogue. Dialogue can take place in mosques. It happens, but it's not the main objective of the mosques. And dialogue should start before the establishing of a mosque, because Muslims have to discuss for long years before establishing mosque with the local people. Please imagine if a Buddhist from Thailand or China come to Muslim majority area in your country, then they want to establish Buddhist temple. there may be a hurdle. It may be impossible. If it is possible, the long-year dialogue is necessary to persuade local people. Actually, many Muslims want to establish such temple far from their residential area. It is the normal reaction. And internet. Yes and no. As you know, it spreads knowledge and misunderstanding, impression, perception, so rapidly. And it can be positive and negative. It's so huge in big scale. I cannot say simply positive. There are so many negatives, I am sure. There may be positives also, but it's not so simple. It's mixed.
Okay, Prof. Thank you so much. Maybe next week in the final class, you share your translation work, Prof. Prof is involved in translating IIIT book. And last time you also told us that your wife or yourself involved in making animation for children. Maybe you can share with us your own experience. I'm not this time, next week, inshallah. So thank you so much, Prof. Ahmad, for sharing with us, and we look forward for the final class next week. Until then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.